Me, 32. Marketing manager at a decent firm. Finally ready for something real. I'd spent my 20s figuring myself out, dating who I wanted, building my career, not apologizing for any of it. I went to the protests, posted the black squares, had the conversations. I knew who I was. Now I was ready for an actual partner. Someone stable, someone who had their life together and could match my energy. Kevin seemed perfect on paper. Software engineer, 34, no gym selfies, no fish photos, actual conversations over text that lasted more than 3 messages. We'd been messaging for a week. He asked thoughtful questions, referenced things I'd said days earlier, made me laugh. When he suggested coffee, I felt like I should counter with something better. I'd been wanting to try this wine bar I kept seeing on Instagram, the kind of place where people posted bottles with 4-digit price tags visible in the background. What about Veritas instead? Their wine selection is supposed to be amazing. I texted back. Sure, sounds good, he replied. I felt a little thrill. He didn't hesitate. That was a good sign. I showed up in a good outfit, the kind that says, I have my life together, but I'm still approachable. Not trying too hard, but enough effort that he'd notice. He was already there when I arrived, looked like his photos, stood up when he saw me. Good start. We got a table by the window. The conversation flowed easily. He asked about my work, actually listened when I talked about the rebrand campaign I was leading, didn't interrupt to make it about himself. He shared about his job without being boring about it, made coding sound almost interesting. No red flags, no weird comments about my appearance, no complaints about his ex. After about an hour, I was genuinely feeling it. This could actually go somewhere. Should we get a bottle? I suggested, picking up the wine list that had been sitting between us. Sure, he said, leaning back in his chair. I scanned down to the section I'd screenshotted before coming, the Napa Valley Reserves. There it was, the one I'd seen influencers post about, the label instantly recognizable, $700. I angled the menu toward him, tapping it lightly with my finger. This one looks amazing. I've heard incredible things about it. He glanced at it, then back at me. His expression didn't change. He smiled, polite and calm. That's pretty steep for a first date. If you really want that one, we can split it. Or you're welcome to get it, and I'll stick with my coffee. The words hung there in the air between us. I felt my face get warm. I laughed, trying to play it off like I'd been joking. Oh my God, no, I didn't mean... But I'd meant it. I'd fully expected him to order and pay for it without blinking, maybe even suggested himself. That's what guys did on dates. That's what they'd always done when I was in my 20s. They wanted to impress. They wanted to show they could provide. I ordered a glass of house wine instead, something basic for $12. The rest of the date was fine. The conversation picked back up. We laughed about a story he told about his coworker, but something had fundamentally shifted in my head. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd miscalculated something. When we left, I hinted at a second date while we stood outside on the sidewalk. This was really fun. We should do it again sometime. Let's see how things go, he said, hands in his pockets. I'm keeping my options open for now. Not, yes, definitely. Not, when are you free next week? Just keeping his options open. I smiled and said cool, told him to text me, but internally I was spiraling the entire walk to my car. In my mid-20s, guys would have ordered that bottle just to impress me. They would have insisted on paying for everything. They would have suggested a second date before the first one even ended, probably would have already asked about my weekend plans. What the hell changed? Was it me? Was it them? I texted my friend Jess on the drive home. Date was good, but he wouldn't pay for a nice bottle and said he's keeping options open, lol. Jess replied immediately, LOL, he's intimidated. Men are so low effort now, it's actually sad. I wanted that to be true. I wanted to believe Kevin had been intimidated by me, by my confidence, by the fact that I knew what I wanted, but he hadn't seemed intimidated at all. He'd seemed unbothered, comfortable, like he'd made a decision and was fine with it. I pulled into my apartment complex and sat in my car for a minute, staring at my phone. Something felt off, but I couldn't name it yet. Over the next month, I went on more dates, matched with Jason, finance type, confident, good-looking in that clean-cut way. His profile mentioned travel and investing and had a photo of him at some charity gala. We went to dinner first, then drinks at a rooftop bar. 3 dates in, I started assuming we were heading somewhere. I was texting him daily, he was responding. We had chemistry, the kind where conversations went late into the night and made me smile at my phone like an idiot. On the 3rd date, we were at a wine bar, different from the one with Kevin, thankfully, and I was telling him a story about my friend's disastrous relationship. I casually dropped, "Yeah, my ex-boyfriend used to do this annoying thing where he'd agree to plans and then flake last minute." I paused, waiting for Jason to react, to claim me playfully the way guys used to. He didn't. He just nodded and said, "That sounds frustrating." Later that night, as we were leaving, I decided to just ask directly, "So, what are we doing here?" He stopped walking and turned to face me. "I like hanging out with you, but I'm not trying to lock anything down yet. I'm seeing where things go with a few people." I felt my face get hot. "After 3 dates? I've been texting you every day." "Yeah, and I've enjoyed it, but I'm just being honest with you. I'm not ready to be exclusive." I went cold after that. He texted me a few days later, something casual about a new restaurant opening. I left him on read, expecting him to double text, to chase a little. He didn't. No follow-up. Nothing. Then there was Chris, the trainer at my gym. We'd flirted a few times. He'd correct my form on squats. I'd joke about how sore I was. The usual. I was moving a heavy bookshelf that weekend and texted him, "Hey, need a strong guy to help move furniture this weekend. You'd be a lifesaver." He replied an hour later, "That's what TaskRabbit is for." "You got this though." I pushed back playfully. "Come on, it'll take like 20 minutes. I'll buy you lunch after." Chris. I keep weekends for my training clients and personal stuff, but seriously, the app is super easy. No apology, no guilt, just a firm boundary. At work, things weren't much better. I was drowning in a project deadline. Our client had moved the presentation up by a week, and I was buried in data analysis that wasn't my strong suit. Daniel, a senior analyst who sat 3 desks over, had finished his work early. I walked over with my laptop. "Hey, I'm completely underwater with this data analysis section for the Morrison project. Could you take a quick look?" He glanced up from his screen. "That's not my project, though. Plus, you're the lead on Morrison. Wouldn't want to step on your toes or confuse the reporting structure." He smiled, polite but firm, and turned back to his monitor. 5 years ago, guys at work would have jumped at the chance to help me. That evening, I was scrolling Instagram. I noticed Tyler hadn't liked any of my stories in weeks. Tyler, the guy who used to like everything I posted within minutes, who I'd occasionally respond to when I was bored. I clicked on his profile. He'd posted a photo from a weekend trip with a girlfriend now. Someone younger, with a bright smile. She looked uncomplicated. I DM'd him. "Hey stranger, how have you been?" He replied 6 hours later, "Good. Busy with work and stuff. Hope you're well." That was it. No follow-up question. No effort. I closed the app and stared at my ceiling that night. Kevin, Jason, Chris, Daniel, Tyler, 5 guys who just didn't care enough to try. I used to be able to get guys to do anything. One text and they'd rearrange their whole weekend. One hint and they'd offer to help before I even asked. It was like they were all competing to prove themselves worthy. Now suddenly, they all had boundaries. They all had personal time and other options. When did they get so smart? When did they stop trying? What the actual hell was happening? Sunday brunch with Jess and Rhea felt necessary. I needed to process this out loud with people who'd validate me. I unloaded everything as soon as we sat down. It's like guys don't even try anymore, I said, stabbing at my eggs. Kevin wouldn't pay for a decent bottle on our date. Jason won't commit after 3 dates where we had actual chemistry. Chris wouldn't help me move. Daniel wouldn't even look at my work project. Even Tyler's completely ignoring me now. Jess was immediately fired up. They're intimidated by successful women. You're independent, you have your career together. You're just too much for them. Rhea, who'd just gotten engaged 3 months ago, was quieter. Finally, she spoke up, carefully. Did you offer to split the wine with Kevin? I bristled immediately. It was a date. Why would I offer? I just mean, some guys don't assume that anymore. I shouldn't have to make it clear. It's implied. Jess jumped in. Exactly. You're worth it. These guys are just trash. I nodded, but Rhea's silence sat with me weird. That night, Jess and I went to a bar downtown. I was halfway through a gin and tonic when I saw him across the room. Brad. Brad, who I'd kept in orbit for nearly 2 years in my late 20s. Brad, who would text me good morning every day, even though I rarely responded. Brad, who would drive 40 minutes to hang out when I was bored or lonely. Brad, who I'd gently rejected multiple times but never fully cut off because the attention felt good. He was with a woman now. She was laughing at something he'd just said, touching his arm. There was something about her energy. She seemed light, uncomplicated. I walked over before I could talk myself out of it. Brad! Oh my God, hey! He turned, surprised. Oh, hey! Wow, how are you? I hugged him, then turned to his girlfriend. Hi. I'm sorry, I'm being so rude. I'm Emma. Brad and I go way back. I'm Emma too, actually, she laughed. We made small talk for a few minutes. I was overly enthusiastic, dropping hints that I was single now, suggesting we should all grab drinks sometime. Yeah, maybe, Brad said, his tone neutral. We're pretty busy with wedding planning stuff, though. Wedding planning. Oh my God, congratulations, I said, my voice too high. The conversation fizzled. They excused themselves and walked away. I went back to Jess at our table, but I couldn't focus anymore. A few minutes later, Jess went to the bathroom. I was at the bar ordering another drink when I heard Brad's voice nearby. He was talking to a guy I vaguely recognized from his friend group. Yeah, that's her. The one I told you about. Oh damn, the one who kept you on the hook? Yep. She'd text me whenever whatever asshole she was dating flaked on her. I was her emotional support backup plan, not falling for that again. Good for you, man. Emma's really great. She is. She actually wanted me from the start. No games. My face burned. I pretended I hadn't heard. In the Uber home, I tried to rationalize it. Brad was bitter. He was exaggerating. But his words kept looping. Not falling for that again. I rewrote my dating profile 3 times over the next week. First attempt. Feminist. Looking for someone who isn't intimidated by strong women and can actually match my energy. My matches dropped by more than half. Second attempt. Soften it. Looking for genuine partnership and connection. I love deep conversations, personal growth, and building something real. Better matches. One was Mike, 35, seemed emotionally intelligent, good job in tech. We matched and started texting. He asked questions. He was thoughtful. He reciprocated effort. We went on 2 dates. Dinner first, then a walk through a neighborhood I'd never explored. He was respectful, genuinely curious about my life, present in a way that felt rare. I felt actual hope. After the second date, I decided to test him. Just to see if he was actually invested, I texted him, "Ugh, my car broke down on the highway." "So stressed right now," Mike replied within 2 minutes. "Oh no, are you safe?" "Where are you?" Me. "Yeah, I'm pulled over on the shoulder. Just feeling really overwhelmed, Mike. Good that you're safe. Do you have AAA? Here's the number if you don't. Link. Make sure your hazards are on. Let me know when you're home safe." That was it. No. I'm coming to get you. Just practical advice. The next day, I tried different. Me. "I've been so stressed about work lately. Everything's piling up and I just need to vent. Mike? That sounds really tough. Have you been able to talk to your therapist about it? I know you mentioned you see someone." Me. "I mean, yeah, but I wanted to talk to you about it too." Mike. "I'm happy to listen if you need to vent, but your therapist is probably better equipped to help you process it in a healthy way. I don't want to accidentally give you bad advice." I stared at my phone. In my 20s, guys would have stayed on the phone for hours. They would have dropped everything. Mike was setting boundaries. After the 4th date, which had gone well, genuinely well, I felt anxious. I wanted to lock this down. I texted him, "My parents are actually in town next weekend visiting. Would be cool for you to meet them if you're free. Totally no pressure though." There was pressure. Significant pressure. Mike didn't respond for a full day. Then, "Hey, I think we might be moving at different paces here. You're great, and I've enjoyed getting to know you, but I'm not at the meet the parents stage yet. I think we might want different things right now. Wishing you the best." He stopped replying after that. I texted Jess. He ghosted me. After 4 dates, Jess. Men are freaking trash, but I wasn't even mad anymore. I was just exhausted. That night, I was lying in bed scrolling Reddit. I lurked on relationship forums sometimes. I clicked into a men's subreddit by accident. The top post? How to spot women who want a provider after riding the carousel. The comments listed red flags. Expects men to pay and help without offering much in return. Friend-zoned good guys when younger, now wants them to settle. Uses feminism to avoid accountability, but still expects traditional male roles. Tests men constantly. It was me. Every single point. One comment. They're mad. We learned the game. We're not simping anymore. I closed my laptop. I wanted to be angry at them, but I just felt hollow. I had a therapy appointment the next week. Dr. Lee asked how I'd been. I unloaded everything. Kevin, Jason, Chris, Daniel, Brad, Mike, all of it. These guys just won't do anything anymore. They won't pay, they won't help, they won't commit. I don't understand what's wrong with them. Dr. Lee nodded. What are you offering them? I blinked. What do you mean? What are you offering in these dynamics? What do they get from investing in you? I mean, me? My time? My company? And what are you asking them for? I paused. Normal things. Basic things, really. Like, I started counting on my fingers. Paying for nice dates. Helping me when I need something moved or fixed. Committing after we've been seeing each other. Being emotionally available when I need to talk. Meeting my friends and family when things are going well. not judging my past, supporting my career, actually pursuing me and showing effort, planning a future together when we're serious. Dr. Lee was quiet for a moment. That's 9 very specific things. They're normal expectations, I said defensively. Are they? Let's look at this differently. If a man came to me and said he expected a woman to cook his meals, clean his home, defer to his decisions, give up her career for his, raise his children, stay attractive for him, never complain, be available for sex whenever he wanted, and support his dreams unconditionally, what would you think? My face got hot. That's different. That's outdated gender roles. Is it? Or are you asking for the benefits of traditional masculine roles, provision, pursuit, protection, while offering none of the traditional feminine reciprocity? I felt like I was being cornered. It shouldn't be transactional like that. That's not what feminism is about. You're right, it shouldn't be purely transactional. But relationships are reciprocal by nature. If you expect men to perform traditional roles while you maintain complete independence and don't signal what they'd receive in return, can you see how that might feel one-sided to them? I sat there, silent. She continued gently. You want partnership, but you're not showing up as a partner. You're showing up as someone who wants to be pursued and provided for. Think about Brad. You kept him around for validation while you dated other people. What did he get from that dynamic? I was honest with him. I never led him on. Being honest doesn't mean it wasn't hurtful. He invested time and emotional energy hoping you'd eventually see him differently. You used that hope as a safety net. I felt tears burning, but I refused to let them fall. Dr. Lee leaned forward slightly. What do you think you're offering these men in exchange for those 9 things? I opened my mouth to answer, then stopped. My mind went blank. My presence? I finally said, my voice smaller. My time when I can? The possibility of choosing them eventually? The words hung in the air. Even I could hear how weak they sounded. I left the session angry, sat in my car in the parking lot for 10 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, telling myself she was wrong. But by the time I got home, the anger had faded into something quieter and more uncomfortable. I pulled up Instagram almost on autopilot, found Brad's profile. His fiancée had posted a story, them cooking dinner together, both laughing. He'd commented, "Best teammate. I thought about how I'd treated Brad, how I'd text him when I was lonely or bored, how I'd cancel plans last minute if something better came up, how I'd keep him hoping while I chased guys who treated me like I was optional. I wasn't his teammate. I was his disappointment. I thought about Kevin, how I'd expected him to fund my luxury experience without considering what he'd want. I thought about Jason, how I'd assumed we were serious because I'd decided we were. I thought about Mike, how I'd tested him with manufactured crises instead of building trust. The next morning I went to my usual coffee shop. I ordered my usual drink and sat down with my laptop. There was a guy across the room, cute, maybe early 30s, reading. He looked up once. We made brief eye contact. He smiled politely. Old me would have expected him to approach. Instead, I thought about walking over myself. Then I stopped. What was I actually offering? The barista called my name. I grabbed my coffee. Young guy, maybe 25, friendly smile. Have a good one, he said. You too, I replied. He turned to the next customer without a second glance. I opened my phone and deleted all my dating apps. Not because I was giving up on dating, not because I was bitter, but because I needed a new strategy. Men had clearly gotten smarter somehow. They'd figured out the game, learned to spot the patterns, started comparing notes. Online or something. They weren't bending anymore, weren't jumping through hoops, weren't competing to prove themselves worthy. Fine, I could adapt too. I pulled out my journal again and started a new page. What modern men actually respond to. I'd figure this out. I'd study what worked, what made them invest, what got them to actually try again. There had to be a way to make them see my value without me having to change who I fundamentally was. I took a sip of my coffee and opened my laptop. I had research to do,